Thank you, Joni. What an incredible job she's done in bringing this roast and ride here. Give her a great round of applause. It is great to be with Governor Kim Reynolds again. Congratulations on her leadership of the Republican Governors Association. And it was a privilege to work with her on one of my challenges that we took on in Arkansas, which is advancing computer science education. So, Kim Reynolds, it's great to see your success here in Iowa. Now, I'm particularly pleased today that I have my wife Susan here, who's joined us. She drove up from Arkansas, first time here in Iowa, and she'll be here back for the state fair, of course. And whenever you look at our start in marriage, she grew up in Atlanta, I was in Arkansas, we met in college. She went to teach school in Memphis, I'm going to law school in Fayetteville, and I did not have enough money to put gas in the car to go see her and buy law books at the same time. So literally, I parked my car and I hitchhiked over to Memphis to date Susan. And that start gave us 49 good years of marriage, so proud of that start. And by the way, don't hitchhike. Now, I had the highest compliment I've ever had campaigning anywhere this last week in Iowa. I'm campaigning here in Iowa, a small event, and I'm shaking hands and getting into a conversation with someone, and after a little visit, they come to me and they say, you know, you seem like a normal person. Is that not just the greatest compliment you can have? And guess what? Iowa can spot normal from a long ways away. And that's important whenever you look at the authenticity of a candidate, who they are, what they believe in. And yes, Iowa plays an important role this next year, first in the nation test. I'll be here taking advantage of that and trusting Iowans to make the right decision. So thank you for leading. And I am normal because I love an ag state. Coming from Arkansas, we depend upon agriculture, small communities that thrive on families and commitment. And then you look at my background growing up on a farm, and yes, I learned how to clean out chicken houses. Chickens and cattle and anything that you could do to make a living on a farm. My dad was a USDA poultry inspector. But because of education, I've had opportunities in life. And as Joni mentioned, I've had the opportunity to serve in the United States Congress. I've had the opportunity actually to balance the budget in the United States Congress. The last time we did as a nation, we're way overdue. I served the Bush administration as head of Homeland Security, border security responsibilities, transportation, protecting our country from the next terrorist attack. In times of crisis for our nation, I have been there. I headed up the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. And as Tim Scott mentioned, we have a challenge with fentanyl in our country. Before I started campaigning again, I was here in Iowa campaigning against methamphetamine, educating and saying we've got to stop the supply and reduce the burden of methamphetamine on our communities. Today, the challenge is fentanyl. I understand the crisis that's ahead of us. As governor, I came back to Arkansas, got elected governor, and for the first time in the history of Arkansas, we had a Republican governor with a Republican legislature. And we tried to follow Iowa's example. We lowered taxes. I signed legislation that lowered taxes from 7% to 4.9%, $700 million going from the state treasury to the private sector of our economy. That is a conservative approach to government. We created over 100,000 jobs. I reduced the size of government in terms of state employment. 14% fewer state employees after I finished governor from when I started. And guess what? When we finished, I left my successor, your friend, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We left a $2 billion surplus, increasing teacher pay, balancing the budget, cutting taxes, creating jobs in the private sector. That's a record I'm proud of. And guess what? Yes, we had a pandemic. And we are second to none, though, in terms of supporting freedom for our people during a pandemic. And I resisted the pressure that came from everywhere to shelter in place. I resisted the pressure to say, you're an essential business and you're a non-essential business. Essential businesses get to stay open. Non-essential businesses closed. I went on national television and said, we're not doing that in Arkansas because every business that provides a job for a family is essential. And when it came to our schools, after we went virtual that first spring semester, I said no more. We're going back for in-classroom instruction. I had protesters out in front of our residence. Susan remembers that. And I said, we've got to have school for our children. And as a result, Arkansas ranked number 2 in the nation in terms of days of in-classroom instruction during the pandemic. And that was good for our kids. So now I'm running for president of the United States, but I wanted you to know me. And I'm running for president because Joe Biden's policy are the wrong direction for America. People ask me, what would you do on your first day in office? I'll sign an executive order reversing Biden's executive orders. He's wrong on spending, too much federal spending. He's wrong on border security. He's wrong on energy policy. We need a pro-growth energy policy in this country, which means that our president is not going to have to go to Saudi Arabia or Venezuela and say, can you please produce more oil? We're going to produce oil in this country. We're going to drill, and we're going to have all energy sources, including the renewable energy that is so important here in Iowa. Biofuels, ethanol. That's an important part of the mix as well. We've got to get our economy back on track, and I believe that is the number one issue in a 2024 campaign. Whenever you see inflation and you see now interest rates going up, that burdens Iowan families, where they're paying more for their credit card debt, they're paying more for their home mortgage. They can't buy a new start in a home because the interest rates go up. We've got to get that under control, and it starts with moving toward a balanced budget in Washington, D.C. and controlling federal spending. I have a few specific ideas. We need to cut the federal non-defense workforce by 10%. I'll do that as president. We did it in Arkansas. We're going to put people back to work through workforce training. We're going to allow our senior citizens, they're not senior citizens, age 62 to 66, you can go to work without being penalized by the federal government and receive Social Security. Let me just say, though, and Scripture says that you got to fight the good fight. Fight the good fight. And I hope that I have a new demeanor for government service and for the direction of our country that reflects our national character. But I also believe you need to have a fighter. And I have fought in Arkansas to build the Republican Party. I was chairman when Bill Clinton was governor and then president. I fought that battle. I fought the battle for balancing the budget in Washington, D.C. I fought the battle whenever we had a terrorist in northern Arkansas, and I put on a flak jacket and went in and helped negotiate their surrender and prosecuted them in court. I know how to fight battles, and let me tell you, we have a battle to fight in 2024. Let me fight that good fight for you with you, Iowans. God bless you.